Far beyond the edge of known stars, a massive alien warship drifted through the silent dark. Its metal body stretched for miles, glowing with cold blue lights. The ship carried warriors from a proud and ancient empire, a race that had crushed 100 worlds. To them, war was not survival. It was honor, conquest, and proof of strength. They believed no species could ever surprise them. On the command deck, the alien captain stood tall, his eyes burned with pride. His crew obeyed every order without hesitation. For generations they had seen countless civilizations, all weaker, all broken before the Empire's might. They thought they knew the universe well. Yet, on this night, a signal reached them, soft and strange. It came from a small blue planet that their charts marked only as unclaimed. At first the crew laughed. The signal was not military, not encrypted, not even technical. It was rhythm and voice, a simple sound rising in waves. The communication officers played it aloud, filling the command deck. The aliens tilted their heads, confused. It was not a weapon. It was not even language in their sense. It was a sound of humans singing together. Their words carried emotion, deep and steady. "This cannot be a war code," one officer growled. "They are primitive," another said with arrogance. Yet the captain narrowed his eyes. His instincts warned him. Something in the sound made the ship's scanners react. Energy patterns flickered across the screens, waves of unknown origin dancing with each human voice. "Scan deeper," the captain ordered. His voice was calm but sharp. The scanners lit up, beams stretching across space, reaching toward the small blue planet. The ship's computers began to hum and click as they processed the readings. Then, silence filled the deck. The results glowed on the screens, and no one spoke. What they saw was impossible. Around the human gathering, energy surged like a shield, invisible but strong. It was not from technology. It was not from machines. It was raw and unexplainable. Every time the humans lifted their voices higher, the readings spiked. The energy did not scatter, it moved in rhythm with them like something alive. "Report," the captain demanded. His officers exchanged uneasy looks. One whispered, "It is not in our records." Another stammered, "It has no scientific classification." A third said, "It cannot be measured with our instruments." The crew shifted uncomfortably. For the first time in many campaigns, they felt something they did not understand: fear. The captain watched them. His people were warriors bred to crush resistance, yet now they trembled at the sight of a small planet's voices. "Are they using hidden weapons?" asked one officer. The captain's jaw tightened. "If it is a weapon, it is unlike any we have known." He leaned forward, eyes fixed on the shimmering scans. "Play the sound again." The singing filled the command deck once more. The voices of humans carried no threat, yet they carried power. It was steady, rising, full of something the aliens could not name. Some of the crew covered their ears, not out of pain, but out of unease. The captain himself felt a strange weight in his chest, not fear of death, but fear of the unknown. Outside, the warship loomed in orbit, its weapons ready, but no order was given. The alien crew, always loud with confidence, now stood silent. The captain clenched his hands behind his back, staring at the blue planet below. "What do these humans worship?" he asked, more to himself than to anyone. No one answered. The question hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. Then the scanners surged again, stronger than before. An officer shouted, "Captain, the energy is rising on its own." The crew leaned over the screens, eyes wide. The readings stretched far past the limits of their instruments. The energy surrounded the humans, spreading out like waves across the planet, touching even the orbit where the warship floated. Some of the crew backed away from their stations, as if the very glow of the screens burned them. One whispered, "It feels alive." Another said, "It is not science." A third muttered, "It is something else." The captain remained silent. His mind raced. He had conquered 100 worlds, defeated enemies with weapons of plasma, shields of crystal, fleets the size of stars. But never had he seen a people create such force without machines. Never had he seen power born from voices, from belief, from unity. Do they know? The captain finally asked. His officers looked at him in confusion. Do the humans know what they carry? His voice was quiet, yet it cut through the silence. Or do they think it is only ritual, only tradition? No one replied. The alien warship drifted in orbit, a predator staring down at prey yet unable to strike. For the first time, the hunter was uncertain. The singing continued, flowing across the void. The scanners kept glowing, each wave stronger, each reading more impossible. The crew that once laughed at humans now stood pale and wordless. Even the captain, hardened by countless wars, felt the edges of doubt pressing into his heart. In the silent command deck, no one dared to speak. The mighty warship floated above Earth, but its weapons did not fire. The aliens, who had crushed so many worlds, now hesitated because of voices, because of something they could not name. And so, the first discovery was not weakness, but mystery. What the aliens thought would be an easy conquest now became a question that filled them with silence. The sound of human worship echoed through the void, stronger than weapons, stronger than pride, and the warship listened, helpless to explain what it had found. The alien warship floated in silence, its metal hull reflecting the distant light of Earth's sun. The crew still stared at the glowing readings on their scanners, uneasy and unsettled. Their eyes moved back and forth between the numbers that made no sense and the small blue planet below them. They had faced plasma storms, antimatter bombs, and fleets that darkened the stars. But never this, never a sound that carried power, never a ritual that made their machines tremble. The captain, tall and rigid, stood at the center of the deck, his hands clasped behind his back, his jaw locked in thought. He had seen fear before, but he had never seen it inside his own ship. His warriors, bred for war, were shifting in their stations, glancing at one another. The sound of human voices in worship had unsettled them. But what the scanner showed had done more. It had silenced them. Run it again, the captain ordered. His voice cut through, the tension, firm and unshaken. The officers obeyed. Fingers danced across glowing panels. The scanners pulsed and hummed, sending out beams of invisible light toward Earth. The machines clicked, buzzed, and then returned the results. The deck lights flickered for a moment, and then the screens filled with patterns. The readings did not show chaos. They showed order, perfect waves of energy rising and falling with the rhythm of human voices. It was not random. It was not broken. It was alive. Explain it, the captain demanded. His eyes swept across his officers. One officer swallowed. Captain, we cannot, another muttered. It is not technology, a third whispered. It looks like harmony, a force of one mind, one will. The captain narrowed his eyes. He had crushed empires. He had broken civilizations. He had seen weapons of great and terrible design. Yet all those things were made of matter, of machines, of science. But this was something else. It was not steel, not fire, not code. It was unity, invisible but real. The crew argued in hushed voices. Perhaps it is a weapon hidden in sound. Perhaps their gods feed them power. Perhaps the humans themselves are weapons. The captain raised his hand and silence fell once more. Humans are weak, one officer said, almost as if to remind himself. Their ships are small, their armies young. They are nothing, compared to us. His voice trembled at the end, as if even he did not believe his own words. Then why do our scanners fail? The captain asked quietly. His voice carried across the deck like a blade. Why do their voices bend our machines? Why do you, warriors of the Empire, stand in fear? No one answered. The hum of the ship filled the silence. The captain turned, back toward the screen, where Earth spun in calm rotation. Clouds covered the oceans. Cities twinkled like sparks in the dark. It looked harmless, fragile, yet the captain could not shake the feeling that something unseen was hidden beneath its surface. Bring it closer, he ordered. Focus the scans on one of their gatherings. The ship's massive lens shifted, locking onto a human city below. Thousands of humans filled a structure, standing together, heads bowed, voices rising in Song. The energy readings spiked again, higher than before. The screens glowed, the numbers climbed. The crew gasped. "Captain, the energy is spreading beyond the building," an officer reported. "It is moving through the city." Another added, "It is not fading. It is growing." The captain leaned forward, his eyes cold. His instincts whispered danger. His pride whispered conquest. His mind warred between the two. "Are they aware of this?" the captain asked, his voice low. "Do they know what they create when they sing?" An officer shook his head. "Their actions are simple. They believe they are only worshipping. They have no machines linked, no devices. It is only them." The captain did not believe in coincidence. In war, nothing was only. Everything had meaning. Everything had power. He wondered if perhaps humans had discovered a weapon so great that they disguised it as ritual, something that even they did not fully understand. The ship trembled slightly, not from attack but from the scanners themselves. Their power cores strained, trying to process the endless waves of human energy. The captain clenched his fists. "Enough," he barked. "Shut it down." The scanners powered down with a hiss and the deck went dim. Yet the silence did not bring peace, it only made the unease heavier. "Captain," an officer spoke carefully, "what shall we do? Shall we strike before they can grow stronger?" Another officer whispered, "Or shall we retreat?" The word retreat had never been spoken on this ship, never in all its campaigns, yet it now hung in the air like a shadow. The captain turned slowly, his gaze swept across his crew, hardened warriors who had brought fire to countless worlds. Now they could not meet his eyes. He saw the doubt, the fear, the cracks forming in their iron pride. And for the first time, he felt it too, a small crack in the armor of his certainty. He returned his eyes to the planet below. The humans continued their worship, unaware of the warship above them, unaware of the silence they had created in the hearts of their enemies. The captain whispered, not for his crew, but for himself. "What are you, humans? What power do you carry inside you?" No one answered. Only the faint echo of human voices drifting through space, filling the warship with a force that no weapon could explain. The crew stood still, their pride shaken, their courage tested. And the captain realized, perhaps for the first time in his life, that war was not the only power in the universe. There was something else. Something he did not yet understand, but he would. He had to. Because the silence of his crew was louder than any battle cry, and it told him one truth. These humans were not what they seemed. The Earth turned slowly below the alien warship, its blue oceans and white clouds shining against the black of space. For a long time, the alien crew had watched in silence, their scanners struggling to explain the strange energy that rose whenever humans gathered in worship. Some called it noise, some called it power, but none could deny it. The humans had stirred something that no machine could measure and no empire could control. The alien captain stood at the center of the deck. His soldiers shifted nervously. The crew of this warship was bred for conquest, raised to see fear only in their enemies, but now the fear sat among them, heavy and quiet. "If this energy grows, it may be a threat," one officer whispered. Another hissed, "We should strike, before it becomes too great." A third muttered, "Perhaps we should leave this world alone." The captain's gaze hardened. "We do not retreat," he said. His voice was cold iron. "We will test them. We will learn what they are truly capable of." His crew lowered, their eyes unwilling to meet his stare. Yet deep inside, even the captain wondered, could these fragile humans truly hold something powerful enough to unsettle an empire? Far below, on Earth, human commanders had already seen the warship. Defense satellites traced its shadow as it drifted in orbit. Command centers across the planet filled with alarm. Generals shouted orders. Communication lines burned with messages. The humans had never faced such a ship before. Its size dwarfed their strongest carriers. Its weapons could erase cities in seconds. But Earth was no stranger to survival. Humanity had fought itself for centuries, and now that instinct burned. Again, inside underground bunkers and orbital command posts, human leaders argued, do we attack? Do we send ships? one demanded. "We cannot strike first, we must prepare," another warned. Some believed diplomacy could save them. Others believed only war would. But all of them knew one truth. If they did nothing, the alien warship would decide humanity's fate. In the orbit above, the alien captain gave his first order of challenge. "Send down the fighters," he commanded. "Do not destroy, only disrupt. Let us see how they respond." Engines roared to life. Sleek alien craft poured from the belly of the great ship. Their black wings spread like shadows, cutting across. The skies of Earth across the planet humans looked up. The skies split with fire and thunder. The alien fighters dove, not firing weapons but tearing through communication signals. Satellites went dark, networks collapsed. Radios screamed static. Panic spread in the cities. People shouted, soldiers scrambled. Generals cursed as their orders failed to reach their troops. The aliens expected chaos. They expected screaming and disorder. But what they saw through their scanners made their captain pause. Instead of scattering, humans gathered. In streets, in temples, in homes, people came together. They lifted their voices, not in fear but in prayer. The scanners once again screamed with impossible readings. Energy spiked across the globe. It flowed through cities like invisible rivers. The alien crew staggered back as their screens lit, with wave after wave of power. "Captain, it is happening again," an officer stammered. "Every time they pray, the energy grows." Another whispered, "It is spreading faster than before." The captain's jaw tightened. He had ordered the test to break them, but instead it had only made them stronger. He could see it on the screens. Human energy was not scattered or random. It was connected, as if billions of small lights had joined together to form a single blaze. It was not technology, but it burned brighter than any shield on Earth. Warships began to rise from their launch bays. Though smaller and weaker than alien vessels, they lifted with determination. Human pilots strapped into their seats knowing the odds, but also knowing history. Humanity had always fought against the impossible, and now was no different. Inside the alien ship, laughter broke out among a few officers, bitter and sharp. "Look at their machines," one said. "Fragile, old. They will shatter against us like glass." Another grinned cruelly. "Let them come. We will tear them apart." But their laughter was thin, forced. The captain heard, the edge of fear in it. He watched the human ships rise into orbit, their engines burning against the dark. His scanners continued to pulse with waves of energy. His heart beat heavy, not with excitement, but with uncertainty. Were these humans reckless fools, or did they know something even he could not see? "Let the test continue," the captain said. His voice was low, but it carried across the deck. "We will not destroy them, not yet. We will push, and we will see." The alien warship shifted, its massive cannons adjusting, its fighters circled, like predators ready to strike. Below, human warships broke through the atmosphere. Their commanders broadcast a single message, carried across broken channels. "Humanity does not kneel to invaders." The words reached the alien ship, translated instantly. The crew hissed in anger, some in fear, but the captain only stared. The stage was set. The first contact between the two species was not words of peace, but a test of will. The aliens believed they had control. The humans believed they had no choice but to fight, yet hidden beneath the surface of both fleets was the same unspoken truth. The next move would not decide victory or defeat, but something greater. It would reveal whether humans were prey, or something far more dangerous. And as the alien captain gazed upon the rising human fleet, he felt something he had never felt before. Not hatred, not pride, but the cold weight of doubt. The alien warship hung like a shadow above the earth, its silent bulk blotting out the stars as its fleet of fighters circled below. The humans had risen to meet them with their small warships, fragile compared to the Empire's dreadnoughts. Yet the aliens did not strike at once, for their captain had ordered something different. He wanted to test the humans, to push them to their breaking point. The order went out. Alien fighters screamed across the skies. Their engines left trails of fire as they broke through clouds. Cities trembled beneath their presence. For a moment the world held its breath, expecting fire to fall, but the weapons did not come. Instead, the aliens disrupted power grids, shattered satellites, and silenced communications. In seconds, Earth fell into chaos. Command centers went dark. Radios hissed into static. Satellites blinked out. The humans were blind, cut off from one another. Inside bunkers, generals shouted at darkened screens. Pilots pounded their controls as signals failed. Soldiers on the ground raised weapons, but could hear no orders. It was the perfect test. The aliens wanted to see fear. They wanted to see humanity collapse under confusion. But something else happened. In the streets where panic threatened, people gathered, families held hands, communities walked toward churches, mosques, temples, and open fields. They lit candles where there was no power. They sang where there was no signal. Their voices rose in prayer on the alien ship. Scanners flared, waves of energy burst across their screens. "Captain, the energy is spreading again," one officer gasped. "It is stronger than before." Another shouted, "It is not localized, it is global." The captain's eyes narrowed. The ship trembled as its scanners tried to process the flood of power. From orbit they saw humans kneeling in ruined streets. Their faces lifted toward the sky. Their voices rose as one. Words of hope, words of defiance, words of unity. And with every word, the strange energy pulsed outward, invisible, but unstoppable. It wrapped cities like shields. It rose from mountains like pillars of light. It spread across oceans unbroken. The alien crew staggered back from their screens. "This is not possible," one whispered. Another shook his head. "We have scanned 1,000 worlds. We have never seen this." A third officer growled in frustration. "It is a trick. It must be a trick." Yet even as he said it, his voice shook. The captain clenched his jaw. His instinct screamed at him. He had planned a simple test, but what he saw was something he could not explain. The humans were not panicking. They were not breaking. They were becoming stronger. Their unity was not fragile, it was power. Meanwhile, Earth's warships rose higher into orbit. Their pilots spoke to each other over broken channels, voices crackling with static. "Even if we cannot hear command, we fight. Even if we fall, we fight." Their weapons armed, their shields charged. They knew the alien fleet was stronger, but retreat was not in their blood. On the ground, as alien fighters thundered overhead, people pointed to the sky. They prayed louder. Their voices carried not just through the air, but through something greater. The alien scanners showed spikes so high the machines struggled to keep up. The power was not just growing, it was feeding itself. The captain felt his crew's fear. He saw it in their eyes, he heard it in their shallow breathing. These were warriors who had mocked weaker races, who had laughed at fragile ships. Yet now they could not laugh. They could not even speak. They were watching something they could not conquer. The alien fighters began to circle tighter, confused. By the silence of their prey, they expected terror. Yet instead they flew over crowds of humans who knelt in calm defiance. Their scanners screamed warnings of energy too great to ignore. One pilot asked for orders to fire, but the command never came. The captain remained still. His mind raced. He knew if he gave the order to attack, something far worse might awaken. The humans had turned unity into a weapon he did not understand. He did not know if his fleet could withstand it. "Captain," an officer whispered, "if they continue, the energy may reach us, it may breach the ship." Another hissed, "We should destroy them now before it grows further." But even as he spoke, his voice cracked, for he did not believe it would be so easy. The captain raised his hand for silence. His crew obeyed, though their fear was heavy in the air. He stared at the planet below, at the small figures standing unarmed beneath his warship, and he whispered, "They do not fight us with weapons. They fight us with something else." The words hung in the air. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Some whispered about gods, others about forbidden forces. But none dared to speak too loudly, for in their hearts they felt it too. Whatever the humans carried, it was not weakness. The test was supposed to prove their superiority, but instead it revealed something the aliens had never imagined. Humanity was not broken by fear. Humanity turned fear into strength. And as their voices rose louder, the aliens realized they were facing something they could not silence. The captain closed his eyes for a moment, hearing the echoes of human prayer drifting through the void. It was not a sound of surrender. It was not a sound of despair. It was the sound of defiance wrapped in faith, and it terrified him more than any weapon ever had. In the darkness of space, the test was complete, and the result was clear. The humans would not kneel, not to silence, not to power, not to fear. They would rise together, and the aliens had no measure for such strength. The alien warship loomed above Earth like a predator circling its prey. Its black hull glimmered faintly against the starlight, and below it, human cities burned with light not from fire, but from resistance. The aliens had tested the humans with silence, with fear, with disruption, but instead of breaking, the humans had risen. Their prayers had shaken scanners, their unity had baffled logic. Now came the next stage. Warships were rising from Earth, fragile compared to the Empire's titans, but armed with something the aliens could not measure: courage. The first human fleet lifted through the atmosphere, engines roaring like thunder against the void. Old carriers, patched destroyers, and small fighters, their hulls scratched by years of war against themselves, but still alive, still burning. In their cockpits, pilots gripped controls, faces tight with determination. They knew the enemy above them could erase them in moments. They knew their weapons were weak against alien shields, but still they flew. Inside the command center of Earth's orbital defense, generals watched as the alien fleet filled their screens. "They outnumber us 3-1, one muttered. "They outgun us 10-1, another replied. Yet the commander simply said, "Then we fight 1-1 until none of us can stand." Orders went out. Fleets aligned. Humanity's warships pointed their noses toward the black wall of alien steel. On the alien flagship, the crew watched with disdain. "Look at them," one officer sneered. "Rust and scraps, machines barely worthy of orbit." Another chuckled. "This will not even be battle. It will be slaughter." Yet as their laughter spread, it sounded thin, hollow. The captain did not laugh. His eyes were fixed on the scanners, and deep inside something warned him. These humans were not to be mocked. The first clash came sudden. Human ships fired volleys of missiles, streaks of fire across the void. Alien shields absorbed them with ease, flashes of light dancing across their hulls. Alien warships returned, fire, beams of plasma cutting through the black. One human cruiser exploded instantly, breaking apart in a silent shower of flame. Another lost its engines, drifting helplessly. Yet the humans did not break. Their smaller ships darted like wolves around giants, missiles striking again and again. Pilots shouted across broken channels, "For Earth, for our families, for the living and the lost." Each word was recorded by alien instruments, translated into their tongue, and it silenced their crew, for never had they seen prey attack with such defiance. On Earth's surface, crowds watched as streaks of light filled the night sky. Some cried, some prayed louder, their voices joining with the battle above. And once more, the scanners screamed. Energy readings surged again, flowing from the planet into the space around it. Some of the alien weapons flickered. Shields wavered for a second. The crew panicked. "Captain, the human energy. Our systems are reacting again." The captain's jaw tightened. He could not deny what he saw. The humans' warships were weak, but they fought with strength born of unity. And when combined with the energy their prayers summoned, their weakness became something more. It became resistance, a human destroyer. Smaller than a fraction of the alien flagship, dove straight toward its guns, weapons blazing, shields cracking. It fired its last missiles point blank before being torn apart. The explosion rocked even the alien dreadnought. For a moment, the bridge lights flickered. The crew froze, staring at the damage readouts. "These creatures," an officer whispered. "They are not afraid of death." Another added, "They fight as though death itself cannot stop them." The captain remained silent, but his claws tightened against the rail. He had seen many battles, but never one like this. Never had an enemy so small made his soldiers tremble. More human ships charged, weaving between the alien lines. One after another, they struck and fell, but each blow left a mark, a crack, a reminder. And the more they fell, the louder the voices on Earth became. The scanners surged so high alarms rang through the alien ship. Their instruments could not contain the readings. On the ground, people looked to the skies, not with despair, but with fire in their eyes. They prayed, they shouted, they believed, and that belief burned across the void like a second fleet, invisible but undeniable. The alien captain finally spoke. His voice was low, heavy. They fight, as though every life is a weapon, every death a strike. They are not machines, they are not numbers, they are something else. His crew said nothing, for they felt it too. The humans had turned the battlefield into more than war. It had become a test of spirit, and as the battle raged on with human ships falling and alien ships trembling, one truth became clear: humanity was not fighting to win. Humanity was fighting so the universe would know. They would never kneel, never break, never surrender. Even against a power that eclipsed them, they would rise. The captain's gaze hardened. For the first time in his life, he was uncertain of victory. The humans had shown their warships, their weapons, their weakness, but they had also shown something else, and it unsettled him more than any fleet ever had. The war was no longer simple. The prey had become something more, something the Empire had never faced before. The void between Earth and the alien fleet burned with fire. Trails of missiles, beams of plasma, and exploding ships painted the darkness with color. Human warships, fragile against the might of the Empire, pressed forward without fear. One after another fell, but for each ship destroyed, another threw itself into the fight. The humans did not retreat. They did not scatter. They pressed on. On the alien flagship, officers barked reports. Enemy losses are heavy, but their advance has not slowed. Another added in disbelief. Captain, their ships are moving closer, not pulling back. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. These were not the patterns of prey. This was defiance. The alien captain stood unmoving, his eyes fixed on the screens. His fleet should have crushed the humans already. But something was wrong. His scanners still screamed with impossible readings. Energy waves radiated from the planet below, each one stronger than the last. His jaw tightened. He had seen fleets break under less. Yet these humans fought with fire that grew brighter the more they lost. Down on Earth, the alien fighters made their move. One of the Empire's dreadnoughts angled its cannons toward a human city, targeting it as an example. If the humans would not break in orbit, then perhaps they would break on the ground. Weapons charged. Lights along the alien ship glowed like molten suns. In bunkers deep underground, human commanders watched the readings, their voices cracked with urgency. They are targeting the city. Orders flew across broken channels, but there was little they could do. Human warships were too far, too small, too fragile to intercept in time. Families in the city looked up at the night sky, watching as the heavens lit with the glow of the alien cannon. The alien flagship released its fire. A great beam of plasma shot downward, splitting the clouds. For a heartbeat, the city below was bathed in blinding light. And then something happened. The voices of millions rose together. People across the city shouted, prayed, and sang, not in despair but in unity. The energy readings on the alien scanners exploded. Alarms blared across the bridge. Officers shouted in panic, "Captain, the human energy. It has spiked beyond all limits." On Earth, the beam struck, but instead of annihilation, the air shimmered. Light curved and twisted as though hitting an unseen wall. The plasma beam shattered into fragments, scattering harmlessly into the sky. Windows shook, but the city still stood. The people screamed, not in fear, but in triumph. On the alien flagship, chaos erupted. Our weapons misfired. One officer yelled, "No, they were redirected." Another corrected, "Captain, the energy field, it rose around the city like a shield." The crew stared in disbelief. Their most powerful strike had been stopped by voices, by prayers, by something they could not name. The captain's claws dug into the railing, his eyes burned with fury. But beneath that fury was doubt, a weight he had never felt before. He had destroyed fleets, crushed armies, silenced entire planets. Yet here, against fragile humans, his might was useless. Another dreadnought fired, this time at a smaller settlement. Again, the same result. The humans prayed, the energy spiked, and the weapon bent away, exploding harmlessly in the sky. Alien crews shouted, in terror, "Captain, it is everywhere, every city, every gathering. The humans are creating shields we cannot break." For the first time, whispers of retreat passed among the alien officers. "This cannot be fought," one murmured. "They are not using science. They are not using machines. They are using something greater." Another hissed, "Perhaps this world is protected by a force we should not touch." The captain silenced them with a glare, but inside his thoughts raced. Was this power the humans' creation, or something else flowing through them? Were they even aware of what they commanded, or were they simply vessels for a force beyond both species? Meanwhile, human warships pressed their attack. Small as they were, they now carried the weight of belief behind them. Pilots shouted, "They cannot break us! They cannot touch us!" Their voices carried across comms, and the alien crew could hear them translated into their own tongue. The words chilled them more than the weapons did. A squadron of human fighters dove at a massive alien cruiser. Its cannons fired, but the shots bent and scattered. The fighters slipped through, unleashing their payload at close range. The cruiser erupted in a ball of fire. A cheer rose from Earth's surface, and the scanners spiked again. The alien captain's chest tightened. He could no longer deny what was before him. Every attack against the humans made them stronger. Every attempt to break them only gave them more unity. He stared at the planet, its blue oceans and glowing cities, and whispered, under his breath, "What are you, humans?" No one answered. Only the voices of billions rose from below, carried through the void, wrapping around his fleet like chains he could not cut. The silence of his crew told him the truth. Fear had entered them, the Empire's greatest fleet. Masters of countless worlds now trembled before a species that fought with something more powerful than war. And in that moment, the captain understood. The turning point had come. The humans had not only defended their world, they had changed the battle itself. The Empire was no longer fighting a weak planet. It was facing an enemy it could not understand, an enemy it could not defeat, not with fire, not with fear, not with war. The captain looked at his crew, their eyes wide and hollow, and for the first time in his long life, he felt the weight of defeat pressing close. Not in the loss of ships, but in the loss of certainty. The humans had shown their true weapon, and it was not technology. It was unity, belief, and something beyond reason. And that was more dangerous than any cannon. The battle above Earth raged on, the void alive with fire and broken steel. Human warships, small and battered, pressed against the Empire's fleet with reckless defiance. Alien dreadnoughts answered with beams of light and walls of flame. But nothing turned the humans away. Their numbers thinned, but their spirit only grew. And with every voice lifted from Earth below, the scanners aboard the alien flagship screamed. With power beyond science on the command deck, silence had fallen. Officers who once laughed now stared pale at their screens. Their claws hovered above controls, but their courage had drained. For each time a city prayed, weapons failed, shields buckled, and alien ships shuddered as though struck by something. Unseen, the captain stood tall, but inside he felt the tremor of doubt spreading through him like a crack in stone. "Captain," one officer whispered, "our weapons are faltering, the humans are bending our strikes." Another added in a hushed voice, "We have never faced this before. We should withdraw before more ships are lost." The word withdraw carried poison in it, for this crew raised to conquer had never spoken such shame. Yet here it was, creeping into their voices like a disease. The captain turned sharply, his gaze burning across the deck. "We do not retreat," he said. The words were iron, but even iron could bend. He looked back to the blue planet, watching the light of its cities. He could see the humans gathering, their voices rising. He could feel their defiance reaching him through the void. And he asked himself a question he never thought possible. What if conquest was impossible? Another officer stepped forward, his voice steady but his eyes full of fear. "Captain, they are not fighting with machines. They are fighting with belief. Every loss makes them stronger. Every strike we give becomes fuel for them. If we continue, we will destroy ourselves." Murmurs rippled through the deck. Warriors shifted, their hands twitching at controls, but no one dared to fire. The silence was worse than any battle cry. The captain's mind raced. He had commanded victories across 100 worlds. He had faced enemies with weapons far greater than human steel. Yet this was different. This was not a war of weapons. It was a war of spirit, and spirit did not shatter like metal. It grew. It endured. And he could feel it now pressing against him, pressing against his fleet as though the planet itself was alive. He clenched his fists. "If we leave, the Empire will call us cowards," he said quietly. "If we stay, we may fall to forces we cannot understand." His crew watched him, waiting for his choice. Fear glimmered in their eyes. The Empire's pride weighed heavy in their hearts. Yet survival whispered louder. "Perhaps," one officer muttered, "these humans are not prey at all. Perhaps they are something greater." Another, braver now, added, "Captain, we should not fight them. We should learn from them, or we will be destroyed." The words rang across the deck. For the first time in memory, the Empire's warriors were not demanding blood but begging for caution. The captain lowered his eyes. He remembered the first moment they had scanned the humans, the moment the voices rose in worship, the way silence filled his ship. He had thought it a trick, a curiosity. Now he knew it was truth. Humans carried something his empire could not conquer. They carried a force unseen, and it was not bound by ships or cannons. It was bound by unity. His claws tightened against the rail. "If I return with tales of voices breaking our fleet, they will laugh, they will strip me of command," he whispered. But then he looked again at the glowing scanners, at the trembling eyes of his crew, and he understood. This was no longer about pride, this was survival. "Captain," an officer said softly, "what is your order?" The deck held its breath. Time seemed to freeze. Outside, the war continued, ships burned and prayers rose. But inside, all waited for his word. At last, the captain spoke. His voice was heavy, his pride broken but his clarity sharp. "No more strikes," he ordered. "Stand down our weapons." Gasps spread across the deck. Shock, disbelief, but also a strange relief. The crew obeyed slowly, as if waking from a dream. Cannons powered down, engines cooled. The alien flagship, once a predator, now drifted silent in the void. The captain stared at the planet. "They are not weak," he said quietly. "They are not prey. They are something new, something we do not understand. And if we fight them, we will fall." His crew bowed their heads, not in shame, but in agreement, for the truth had silenced their pride. For the first time in the Empire's history, the choice was not conquest, but restraint. The captain had seen the fire inside humanity, and he knew, if they returned again with war, it would not be the humans who fell, it would be the Empire. As the alien fleet turned in silence, drifting away from Earth, the humans continued their prayers, unaware of how close they had come to destruction, and unaware of the silence they had placed in the hearts of their enemies. The choice had been made. The battle was not lost but transformed, and the captain carried with him a truth that would echo through the Empire. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were not just survivors. They were a force that even the greatest fleet could not break. The alien fleet drifted in retreat, its black silhouette sliding back into the endless dark. No weapons fired, no fighters chased, no victory claimed. For the first time in generations, the Empire had pulled away not because of defeat in battle, but because of fear. On the command deck of the flagship, the crew sat in silence, their screens dimmed, their scanners still echoing with impossible readings. The voices of humans still rang faintly in their minds, though the sound had long since faded from the speakers. The captain stood at the viewing window, watching Earth shrink slowly behind them. He had conquered worlds far larger, civilizations far older, yet never had he turned his back on an enemy. His claws tightened behind his back, His pride screamed for blood, but his reason held steady, for he had seen the impossible. He had seen plasma beams bend away from human cities. He had seen warships fall only for others to rise, and he had seen voices, mere voices, create power that no empire could measure. "Captain," one officer said at last, his voice heavy, "what will we tell the empire?" Another added bitterly, "They will demand victory. They will not understand silence." A third muttered, "If we speak of voices and prayers, they will laugh. They will strip us of honor." The captain turned slowly, his gaze sweeping across. "Them, let them laugh," he said coldly, "for laughter cannot shield them when they face this same force." His words cut through the room. The officers lowered their eyes, for they too had felt it. They too had heard it. The silence of their pride weighed heavier than chains. The fleet moved farther into the dark, carrying the story of the humans with them. Whispers began among the crew, and whispers would become rumors, and rumors would become legend. Some called the humans dangerous. Others called them blessed. A few dared to call them untouchable. Back on Earth, humanity did not know the details of what had transpired above their skies. They saw the alien fleet retreat. They saw the fire in the heavens fade, and they believed they had survived. In the streets, in the churches, in the cities and the fields, they cheered, they prayed louder, and they wept with relief. To them, it was victory. To the aliens, it was warning. Human leaders scrambled to record what had happened. Pilots told tales of alien weapons failing, of shields bending, of prayers rising stronger than fear. Scientists searched for explanations, but their instruments found nothing. No measurable field, no energy signature they could label. Yet the truth burned in every survivor's heart. Humanity had faced a force that could erase them, and they had endured. Across the Empire's territory, whispers began to spread. Stories carried on intercepted signals and wandering traders. The humans, they said, the fragile ones from the blue world, carry a power no fleet can match. Some dismissed it as myth, others listened with unease. And in the courts of the Empire, the story reached rulers who had never known doubt. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity changed. For the first time in centuries, they were united not by fear of one another, but by the knowledge that beyond the stars, something greater existed, something that had tested them and failed. Warships were rebuilt, stronger than before. Defense networks expanded. Commanders spoke not only of survival but of destiny, for humanity had glimpsed the vastness of the galaxy, and they knew they were no longer prey. Yet the greatest change was not in machines, but in spirit. The people remembered how their unity had become their shield, how their voices had risen, stronger than weapons, and though no one could explain the science, all knew it was real. The power of their belief, their defiance, their refusal to kneel, that was the weapon that had shaken an empire. On the alien flagship, the captain sat alone in his chamber, staring at the star charts. His eyes burned with questions. What are these humans? Do they even know what they hold? Are they children playing with fire, or are they the beginning of something greater? He had no answers, only silence. And that silence haunted him more than any battle ever had. He whispered into the dark, "We left them alive, but one day, they will come for us." The words echoed in his mind, for he knew that while his empire feared their power, humanity had tasted its own strength, and once a species discovers what it is capable of, it does not stop. And so, the story of Earth was carried into the galaxy, a story of fragile ships and burning faith, of prey who rose against predators, a story that told every empire, every fleet, and every ruler that something new had awakened, something that could not be measured, something that could not be silenced. In the silence of space, the humans had spoken, not with weapons, but with their voices, and even the strongest warriors of the empire had fallen quiet, for in that silence was the truth. Humanity was not weak, not fragile, not prey. They were the force that would echo across the stars. The war was not the end. It was only the beginning. and the galaxy would never be the same again.